Hi all, this is Mrs. Polachek. I am going to be going over the 2013 AP Psychology for Your Response. I've done a couple of these videos trying to give you some guidelines on how to approach the free response writing. So remember, first off, space, order, define, and apply. We're going to be going over some samples today as well as a rubric. Again, I chose one that is on stats and research methods because that is, we know, going to be one of the free responses. So here's the question from 2013, right? So a researcher compared the effectiveness of massed versus distributed practice in preparing for a memory test. Each of the two groups memorized the definition of 40 vocab words. In Group A, there were 30 participants who were all under 25 years of age. Participants in Group A used a method of distributed practice, studying for 30 minutes for each of 4 evenings. They were tested on the 5th morning at 7 a.m. In Group B, there were 30 participants who were all over the age of 60. This is a problem. So under age of 25, 60, okay? Participants in Group B used the method of mass practice, okay? So again, the differences for distributed practice and mass practice, studying only between 6:30 p.m. and 8:30. So again, they're different here on the evening before the test. They were tested the next morning at 7 a.m. That's the same time, but lots of differences there. All participants completed a recall test. The test measured how quickly participants recalled the definitions. The results showed that the mean difference between the distributed practice group and mass practice group was statistically significant. The researcher provided listed names and test scores for each individual participants in a letter to all participants. So part A, what is an operational definition of the dependent variable? Again, it's asking for operational definition of the dependent variable. If you just tell me what the dependent variable is, that's not good enough. Explain how the ethical flaw in the study can be corrected. So first you have to know what that ethical flaw is, and then tell me how to fix it. Explain how the research design flaw in the study can be corrected. Again, we identified that there's a big problem in the design. And in a well-designed study, what does it mean that to say there's a statistically significant difference between the groups? Here they're asking for you to basically give the definition and then connect it to the prompt. Part B, how might each of the following concepts affect the results of the study? Fluid intelligence and circadian rhythm. Again, for fluid intelligence and circadian rhythm, you should define them and then connect it back specifically to the prompt. Where in the prompt are they actually talking about this problem? All right, so let's go through the answers first, okay? And then I'll show you 3 examples of writing prompts from students. All right, so point 1, what is an operational definition? Again, you can't not just give me the test scores. You have to tell me it's a speed and accuracy, okay? Accuracy alone will not score, but you have to tell me what are they looking at. Is that speed or time in which participants recall definitions or vocabulary words or both? You have to, again, define what are they measuring specifically, okay? A lot of people will give the dependent variable. They'll say test scores, but they won't get the point. Next, explain how the ethical flaws in the study can be corrected. So they release the participants' names, and we know they have the right to confidentiality, and all the results are going to be concealed. So again, the researcher should provide participants' data individually to each person. That's fine. The researcher must obtain permission to release a participant's name and score. That's fine. But they cannot just release them. They actually either, you can mention that they take the names off. They could give some sort of code, but again, it needs to be not addressed by participants' names. Point 3, explain how the research design flaw in the study can be corrected. So since the independent variable or type of practice varies with the age group, the students must discuss some mechanism to equalize these groups. So state and describe making the ages different for the different groups, or name random assignment, okay? Or they have to have some sort of the study technique repeated within both groups. So again, the age groups is a huge problem here, so that somehow has to be corrected. You do not have to name all of these things. You have to name one. Point 4. In a well-designed study, what does it mean to say that there is a statistically significant difference between groups? All right, so here it says it's less likely due or not due to chance, or is more likely due to the manipulation of the independent variable. So again, what statistical significance means is that your results are not an accident. They are not by chance. It means that what you did in the study did have an impact on behavior, and that's important for you to make sure you know that term. It comes up a lot on AP exams. Next, point 5, fluid intelligence. Fluid intelligence decreases with older age. This is problem solving, okay? And so you need to mention this is going to be a problem with those older people in that one group, and that could influence the overall results of your study. So it says to earn this point, the students must explain that older people have less fluid intelligence and perform worse on the tasks in the context of fluid intelligence, okay? You could also say that younger people are likely to have more fluid intelligence. You don't have to say that, but you could say that and you still get the point. Circadian rhythm. Since they were done at different times a day, people have different circadian rhythms, and that's going to influence, again, their results. So to earn this point, students must explain that the age differences in circadian rhythms would lead to a difference in task performance of the two groups. The age group, time of day, and the effects of the results must be addressed, okay? So here, it says age group, time of day, and the effects of results. So this is the problem here. So you have to have 3 things to be able to get the point, okay? The student may argue that older or younger participants are at a disadvantage because of late study time, or younger participants must have an advantage because of the early testing time. So again, your 3 things here you must mention. All right, so we're going to go on to the first student sample here, and we're going to talk about if they got these points. Okay, so the operational definition of the dependent variable is quickly recalling the definitions. That would get a point. That would get a point here because they, again, talk about the quick recall. The ethical flaw is failing to protect participants' right to privacy and can be corrected by providing a list of names and test scores for each individual to all participants. All right, by not providing a list, okay? The research design flaw can be corrected by randomly assigning, key thing here, participants to one of the 2 groups after randomly selecting participants from a population. You don't necessarily need this part, but that's awesome. These 2 groups should not have been differentiated by age group. Perfect, that's scores. In a well-designed study, to say there's a statistically significant difference between groups means that the difference between the groups can be attributed to the independent variable and cannot be explained by chance alone. Perfect. They got that point as well. Very well written. Fluid intelligence might affect the results of the study because it decreases with age. So group B, which is made up of older participants, would be at disadvantage in processing novel or new information. And so their scores would be lower, and that score is perfect. Last but not least, circadian rhythm might affect the results of the study because it's a body adjustment to the cycle of the day, and the exam was given at 7 a.m. Because the circadian rhythm of the body is most awake in the middle of the day when the sun is out, so a test that is given at 7 a.m. will have a lower scores than if we're given later in the day. Also, with old age cycles, earlier and older individuals are less active at night, so group B would be affected negatively because of studying lasted until 8:30. So again, the 3 things they had to mention was the age, they had to mention, again, how their thinking was and the time of day. So those are the 3 things they should have mentioned. They have all those in there. So that first one got 6 points. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the next free response. All right, so dependent variable is defined as a variable that is changed or depends on the independent variable. It is a result of the independent variable. That is not mentioned is the experiment rather than along with sending the participants the letters of names and test scores, the researchers should provide the participants with their reasoning. Again, they're not talking about how they should fix the ethical problem of the break in confidentiality. They do bring in debriefing, but they're not talking about how they should fix that confidentiality error. Next, The research design flaw in the study is the difference in age groups. The study is claimed to measure the effectiveness of variables of mass versus distributed practice, yet the variable of practice versus age. Also, the letter provided to the participants does not list age. The experiment should be tested either 25 years and under or 65 years and over. This actually would get the point because it is talking about the problem is that they should be the same age. It does kind of explain it a little bit confusing at the end, but they do actually get that point. A statistical difference means that the data displays has two very different cause and effect relationships. This shows that one method was much more effective than the other. Again, does not talk about that chance is not due to chance, and so is not going to score. Fluid intelligence deals with logic and problem solving. That's true. Some participants may not have a well-developed fluid intelligence, meaning that they cannot easily recall the definitions. They do not talk about how the difference between the young people and old people. They don't talk about as you get older, it's going to be more difficult for those older people with fluid intelligence, so that would not score. Their circadian rhythm is a 24-hour sleep cycle that one must maintain for proper functioning. If participants do not maintain the sleep cycle, the results may be skewed or incorrect. Again, it's not talking about the circadian rhythm, again, is when you're most awake and when you're least awake, okay? You're not sleeping for 25 hours. So again, it's not correctly addressing why that might be an issue here for different age groups. So this last free response would only get 1 point, and that only scored for the for this one it only scored for the the third one, so the research design, because of the age. All right, so hopefully you found this helpful. Good luck on your AP exams.